Mr. Godi, good evening. Have you gotten your facts wrong here? Have you simply jumped the gun, as what Jeremy Cronin believes?
Well, no. Look, we took a decision in July, early in August, that the employment of Mr. Mohoro should be checked by the department, and that they should give us a detailed report, because in that meeting their responses were contradictory. And when they came back to us, they said that, look, a day before they had found new evidence which contradicted what they had prepared, and which they believed they needed to hand over to the Public Service Commission to investigate. And we also concurred and wrote to the Public Service Commission, because we didn't want their referral to be a ruse. So we're merely reinforcing what was there. So the Public Service Commission did its job, had a report. Everybody cooperated until yesterday evening, when we got this thing that there are legal problems with the process.
But Parliament has specifically described that process of you firstly commissioning the Public Service Commission to run this investigation, and then following the tabling a provisional report into the matter. They've said what you've done is illegal. Were you aware at the time, were you receiving legal advice that in fact you were not following procedure?
Well, like I say, we only got that position yesterday afternoon after 6 o'clock.
But Jeremy Cronin has just told us,
communicated to us.
Mr. Godi, Jeremy Cronin has just told us that you basically forced the chair of the Public Service Commission to table a provisional report, even though the final report was not yet ready. Is that true?
Well, we requested them to give us the provisional report, which they did. And in that engagement, it was clear that there were two responses that were outstanding, that of Mr. Mohoro and that of the minister. And we left that meeting, all of us in agreement that let us wait for the final report. That will be the final around it. And up until yesterday, as far as I know, there were no issues raised, there were no problems, until when Parliament said to us, well, actually not the meeting with the provisional report, but the fact that we should not have engaged the Public Service Commission without the resolution of the House.
But in terms of the procedural aspect here, and I'm talking just on the basis of principle, the fact that there was no response from Mr. Mohoro and from the minister, does that not mean that you had the sitting, and in fact that it may have been unfair and perhaps skewed against Mr. Mohoro and the department, because you simply didn't give them an opportunity to at least put their side of the story forward?
No. Mr. Mohoro had requested 15 days, and the minister had requested 21 days. So there was an opportunity for. That's why we were supposed to have today's meeting, where we're supposed to get the final report. So there was no judgment against anybody before today.
So then, what do you think is at play here? Because as far as the minister is concerned, the broader context of what is happening here is that, in fact, Scopa may have, whether willingly or unwillingly, played into the hands of those who don't want to see the end of corruption at his department, which he says he's been working towards, and perhaps you're not having a full appreciation of.
No, I think it's not telling the truth. I mean, look, the question that we have asked the PSC to investigate is, how was Mr. Mohoro employed in the department? How did his company, Honey Cloud, get to be employed by the department? That's all. So I don't know how that has anything to do with some supposed anti-corruption process. And when you look at the report of the PSC, it merely talks to process. When Mr. Mokgoro was seconded from IDT, the processes, right up to the hiring of his company. That's all that was being investigated.
What do you think the minister may be hiding?
Look, I'm very much convinced that the debacle that we had today, including the stunt that Jeremy Cronin made, was basically a pushback to ensure that this report does not come out because it does not look good. I was going through it now before I came here. It doesn't say good things about the people involved. So I would imagine that is why you have this furious pushback when people have been cooperating with the PSC and the process all along.
So what happens now? When does the public get to know the truth? When will we have an actual report? Because I think the one question that still isn't answered is the CFO of the department who handles multi-billion rands worth of buildings and properties for government remains in that position. And the question is who may or may not be benefiting out of him being in that position. When do we get the answers?
Well, you're absolutely right, and that's the question that we are asking ourselves. But look, what we will be doing, we are going to meet with the Office of the Speaker, firstly to clarify on process, because as far as we're concerned, the rules of Parliament that establish Scopa allow us, give us the right to investigate any matter that falls within our ambit. And secondly, we also want to get an understanding with them in terms of what then do we do? Because work has been done, investigation has been done, a report is ready. What do we do with that report?
All right. Let's leave it there for tonight. Themba Godi, he is the committee chair of Scopa. So certainly this is a story that seems to be far from over, certainly set to develop as they go back to the Speaker to find out what must happen to that report. Well,